Bow bow Banger Management Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Woo! Woo!
Woo
Karaoke woo.
again. Yeah, karaoke
Woo!
woo. Whoa. You've
That's Jakey
arrived to
from
the Banger
Korea.
Management karaoke episode.
That'd
Well, welcome in everybody to
be
Banger
fun.
Management. That would be fun. Maybe we do that for a holiday special or something.
Yeah, we got people to submit songs, and then we have to sing them.
Listen, you put it out there. Maybe the people will. Want to see that. So
I love karaoke, so I'm down.
Before I listen, you interrupted me right in front of the
Sorry.
right in the middle of the welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Banger Management, the fantasy hockey podcast with Kevin and Josh. Jakey is still in South Korea, not North Korea, unfortunately.
I hope.
I'm kidding. But today we are doing the Week 11 Hot Topics and Mailbag episode. So we're going to answer your questions that you guys submitted all over the place, and we're going to discuss some hot topics from around the league. But I also want to give a little tidbit for how much Josh loves karaoke. I had never seen Josh do karaoke before, but before Josh moved to the US, he had like a kind of like a going away party, and I saw Josh sing the lyrics to songs I didn't even know he knew. So
Wait, no, that was my baby shower.
Oh yeah, it was your baby shower, not your going away party.
Yeah, we had our baby shower at a karaoke bar.
and that was fire, honestly.
It was so fun.
I heard
got
you rap.
lit.
It was all the
And
good
I
stuff.
sang like 15 songs. Yeah, you heard me do some Kendrick. That was pretty good.
I think you did some Eminem as well. It was honestly, it was a good time.
Yeah, it was sick.
But Josh loves to party, so whenever he starts drinking, like he came up with the beer bets. That's what because he just wanted more excuse to drink.
It's funny because you're making it sound like I drink all the time, but I probably at this point, especially with the baby, I drink maybe like once every 2 months. But like when I do, it's a good time.
I'm not a big drinker either, honestly. Like it's just somebody asked me recently, like, oh, like, don't you just love coming home and like just grabbing a beer or something? And like
no,
honestly,
I've never done that.
I feel like we romanticize that in our minds. It's just like, oh, just like grabbing a cold one when you come home from the office. And like in my head, I'm just like, oh, that looks so good. And sometimes I see like a beer, I'm just like, oh man, that looks so like refreshing. I just want it. So you see the Coca-Cola commercial with like the glass is like sweating, and you're like, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I wish I could enjoy like a cold one coming home from the office, but I don't always have the desire.
I'm very much I drink to party, not because I enjoy the taste.
Yeah. You're just like, get me effed up.
Yeah, I mean, usually my go-to at the bar is like, give me the strongest thing that tastes the least like alcohol and is also the cheapest. That's all I care about.
Yeah. I remember this is embarrassing for me. I'm gonna out myself, but I remember when I was a little younger, and one of my friends he like ordered a double of a drink. I was like, oh man, why are you ordering a double? Like you could just get like 2 singles. It's like more liquid for you to drink. And he was just like, I don't care about the liquid. I just want to get effed up. Completely changed my perspective on everything. So
Kevin's like, but economically, you're getting more for the same price. So
yeah, you could get more. You could get more Coca-Cola or soda, whatever you're putting in your thing. So that was the moment I became a man. So
yeah.
All right, so enough lollygagging. Let's get into the hot topics for this week. And there's some spicy ones.
Yeah, this is look, Would You Rather's is Kevin's baby, and he's nurtured it over the past like year and a half, and he's got it down pat. This is a new segment that's kind of my baby, but I'm still working on it. I'm kind of just trying to see who everyone's talking about and toss that in there. The issue that makes it a bit more difficult is that if it's someone everyone's talking about, usually we'll get that as a question. And so then I can't use it as a hot topic. So, or it's related to some sort of news and then I can't use it. So I have to find people that everyone's talking about. That's not a news. It's not a question, and it's not a buy low or a sell high that we've mentioned. So bear with me. But anyways, let's dive right in. So our first hot topic of this week is Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes. Look, I wouldn't be shocked if next week he ends up as one of our buy lows, but he hasn't yet. So I put him as a hot topic. He's been awful. And everyone's wondering, like, what do I do with Aho? Like, is he just cooked? Like, the Rod curse finally got to him, like, what's going on? Kevin, are you worried at all about Sebastian Aho?
No, not worried at all. We see star players go through something like this all the time. It's just happening to Tavares right now. It's happened to other players throughout the season. When it's guys of this caliber that they have such a big sample size of, like, just delivering year on year on year, I don't get worried. I think
Yeah.
Sebastian Aho is a fantastic buy low right now. And I would be trying to purchase if I had the opportunity. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I know in the past I've mentioned my parabola example, and I
yep.
realized after the episode that that's actually the wrong function to use. It's actually a sine wave. Okay, so these guys go up and down over the course of the season, and if you grab them during one of the downs, then you're getting them on the way up, and it's great. Boat goes up. So yeah, no, not worried at all about Sebastian Aho. There's some guys that are like, look, for the most part, when it's a top tier guy and he's going through a rough patch, it sucks, but I'm not worried.
hmm
Once in a while, if there's like a reason behind it, something I
hmm
can pinpoint that would make me worried, then I can get worried. But for the most part, if it's just a guy who's a really good player on a cold stretch, you just tough through it and definitely don't sell low.
Yep. And
Okay, next we have Tyler
mhm.
Bertuzzi of the Chicago Blackhawks. So obviously, first he was a huge sell high and big name out there for that. Now there's the whole Connor Bedard injury. How does that affect the Blackhawks? We talked about it a bit on our news episode, but for Bertuzzi specifically, what are we doing with him?
I'm trying to sell Bertuzzi as fast as possible. I think already he's the type of guy that you've picked up on waivers and you've got tremendous value from, but he's still the type of guy that has the waiver stink to him, so it's so hard to sell. And you don't want to cut him just because he was a waiver guy, because actually producing for your fantasy team. But right now with the Bedard injury, I think all of Chicago right now is going to go through hell right now. I think
Yeah.
so. If I have Bertuzzi, honestly, I'm trying to. In my head, he's like, I'm picturing Malkin. I'm like, this guy's for some reason is going off like crazy, but this is not sustainable, and we know that at some point in the season he can end up on waivers.
Yeah.
And I think Bertuzzi's in the same boat. If I have him, I'm trying to make a swap. I think you can target guys like Dmitry Voronkov. I'm thinking about my team like Voronkov, Eklund. Like I feel like Bertuzzi's been outperforming these guys, but I'd much rather have the guys that I just mentioned over him because of the sustainability of the deployment long term.
Yeah, the way I look at it with these types of guys is definitely you want to trade them, you want to sell high.
hmm
But I don't necessarily like trying to do I mean, we never like one for ones, right? But
No,
the
no,
way I
no.
see it is like you use him as like a piece in like a 2-for-1 to
Yeah.
upgrade to like another tier. So you take your Brandon Hagel, you tie on a Tyler Bertuzzi, and you turn that into I don't know, who do you turn that into?
Sebastian Aho.
Sebastian Aho. There you go. Easy.
Yeah.
One plus two equals Aho. Um,
No, but
yeah,
maybe a Hagel and a Hagel Bertuzzi can get you like a Tage Thompson or something potentially.
yeah, yeah. Although Tate has been pretty sick, but so
Yeah.
have these guys. So absolutely, that's
A
the kind of
Nylander
trade.
maybe.
Yes, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how you
John
use him in a
Tavares.
piece. Exactly. All right. Next, we have John Klingberg of the San Jose Sharks, the power play one defenseman who also gets scratched sometimes.
Yes.
But I
And who
think
also gets demoted to PP2 sometimes.
yeah, that I'm not really as worried about. I think that was kind of a blip.
That's
I
only
actually
happened
picked
5
up.
times this season.
Yeah, but I think like he's settling in now and he's on a really hot streak and he hasn't had a streak like this all year. I know he's had streaks where he's been okay, but he hasn't had a streak of I think it's 4 games now where got 7 points. He's putting up backcats and look, I
You're
picked him
pulling a
up.
classic Kevin. You're pulling a classic Kevin.
No, look, I don't think he's going to be a Darren Radish who you pick up and all of a sudden, becomes like a rocket ship, but like I could see him being someone who sticks onto my team longer than I expected.
Yeah, but I still think he's one of the lowest end power play one quarterbacks available in fantasy, I think. Like who's
I
who's
mean,
another who's
I would
another
take him over. I would take him over like whoever's quarterbacking Toronto's power play right now. Like if it's
that's
like,
there's no guy quarterbacking Toronto's power play that's a
yeah, I guess
defenseman.
there's that. Who would I take him over? I would take him over anyone quarterbacking Philly's power play. I'd take him
There's like no
over.
yeah, but that's you're literally painting like bottom of the barrel right now, like that there's no
Yeah.
guys that are usually there.
Okay, let me think of someone who's actually worth rostering that I would take him over.
Yeah.
That's a power play one quarterback.
hmm
Who would I would take him over Calgary's power play on quarterback.
Rasmus Anderson?
Yeah. I mean, no, but
No,
like,
you're not.
no, not right now. No, obviously not right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if in like a month I'm happier having Klingberg than Anderson.
No, I think Anderson has too much of the back cats, first of all, in his favor that it really
Yeah, that's
sways.
why I was trying to think of guys who are like just on the points wise.
And
Anyways,
also
look, I
Anderson's
don't
just
want.
like good too. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, like I
that's
feel like
fair.
Josh and I are on opposite ends of the spectrum on this Klingberg one. I think he's more optimistic than I am, but within
It's tough.
realistic expectations. But
It's just hard. Like you see a guy put up 7 points in 4 games with the backhats. Like he's been hitting and blocking, and I know that's
yeah,
like
but
such a
he has games like that at certain points too, like where you're like, okay, he's doing that, and then Jakey talked about it in the beginning of the season, like, oh, he wants
yeah,
to change his game or whatever, then he just ends up
yeah.
going back to zeros.
No, I'm definitely not buying into the Batcats, but I don't know. I don't see him necessarily. I'm not worried about Orlov. Like if that's what it is, I don't think he's all of a sudden like
No,
an
but
amazing player. But like in a deep league, I'm happy that I picked him up, and I'm kind of curious to see what he can do with it.
yeah, I'm just saying that, like, obviously when a guy is exposed to PP1 anywhere, especially for a defenseman, like you don't find these guys randomly on waivers very often, right? So I'm definitely interested, but to me there's like a 50-50 chance that come next week you're gonna want to pick up the new hotness. The would you
Absolutely.
rather receive Buyam
I was about to say I'm taking
Klingberg?
Klingberg over William.
See, I feel like I'd rather just take the chance on Buyum at that point, and like, yeah, there's real possibility that Klingberg is better, but I don't know what the ceiling is with Buyum right now. He just got traded to a different situation. Like, there's more upside there than what I've seen Klingberg do the whole season, where he's on PP1 one week, he's on PP2 the next week, he's scratched one game. Like, to me, the I already know what I'm getting with Klingberg. I don't think we're unlocking a new potential with him, halfway through the season. Whereas Buyam just got traded, he's young, like he's developing. I think there's potentially more upside, but I'm also very realistic in the sense that I don't think he's going to be a stud of all studs. But I'd rather take the chance.
Look, I could easily see Klingberg being a drop in like a week or two. I could also see him, being solid and being like the type of guy that people are like, damn, I wish I'd picked him up.
No,
So
he'll be like a
that's
Tony
why
D'Angelo of like last year, where it's like nothing. He's on
I don't
there.
know.
He'll get a point here
Seven
or there,
points in
but
4 games.
how many points does he have on the season?
Probably 7.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna
Yeah.
go check. Let's see. He's got 14 points, so he's got half his points were in the last 4 games of the season.
Seems like the perfect time to grab him.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not opposed to grabbing him and seeing how it plays out. I'm just tempering my expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping that it works out. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets dropped. And yeah, I guess. Okay, here's one. Would you rather have Klingberg or Dougie Hamilton?
I'd rather Dougie.
Yeah.
I know it's
For the
bad
like
because Dougie is
potential upside,
awful, but
yeah.
it's just like we've seen
Yeah.
Dougie hit high ceilings
Yeah.
before, and like he's playing on a better team. It's just New Jersey. It feels like every week you cross off a different star player that's no longer playing
Yeah.
for them, and then at a certain
Yeah.
point you're not a good team anymore. But
Absolutely. No, look, honestly, like for Klingberg to hold any value or only like anything like that, I think he's got to do this for another 1 or 2 weeks. If he can be, this good for another 1 or 2 weeks, then we're getting into a conversation of okay, this is a serious asset that could stick to your team for a while, or it just is one hot week. So we'll see what happens. But in a lot of leagues, you got to make the pickup before they become a certified
yeah,
hold just to take the shot. So that's what I did. But we'll see what happens. All right. Next, we've got Alex Tuck. This name pops up everywhere. And I feel like, I don't know about you, Kevin, but I feel like I'm lower on him than pretty much anyone who's talking about him.
I
And the
feel
thing is
like I
that he
keep
keeps
being
putting
low
up
on him.
he
Yeah,
keeps putting up
exactly.
points and like backhats and stuff, and it's like making me look silly for my opinion, but it's just he will never be power play one. Like he gets it like here and there when there's injuries, but like the coaching staff clearly does not want him there. And Buffalo is not a good team. Like he shouldn't be his deployment and like the type of play, not that he's a bad player, but just who he is and his deployment should not be leading to the point production that he's getting right now.
Yeah.
I love his backcats that I've never said bad stuff about. He's a solid backcats guy, but people are always like, should I do Alex Tuck or this power play one guy? And I'm always like, for the most part, it's the power play one guy. Like
Yeah.
obviously, like that's not a blanket statement, but usually it's a guy who's like similar but just has power play one. So that's why I felt the need to mention him as a hot topic.
No, and he's definitely like relevant in the conversation too. Like over the last month, he's at almost a point per game, which is not nothing. And for a guy you drafted where you did, like that's tremendous value. The thing is, the power play is not anything exceptional. Like he gets stretches of PP1 depending on the injuries, and Buffalo's been really beaten up, so he's been there a little bit. But like 0.23, and I expect that to go lower because he just doesn't have the consistent exposure there. The main thing with Alex Tuck and why he's like always higher ranked than you would expect is not only because he gets shorthanded points, which he's actually really good at. He's actually one of the forwards that blocks the most. So
Yeah,
I mean, we play in bangers categories league, so the blocks from the forward position there are very valuable. And the shorties as well is one of the categories in our league of record, which I feel like is very rare. People don't usually play with shorthanded points,
I hate it.
but
I
makes
always
him
lose
very valuable
shorthanded
there
points.
too. Last season he had 9 shorthanded points. This
Yeah,
year he's only got 1, so like he's due for some regression there.
yeah,
But nonetheless, I
and his penalty minutes also are usually pretty good.
yeah. So and he's one of those guys that he doesn't rely on like a fight or a game misconduct to get his penalty minutes. It's just because
Yeah,
he's like a little bit undisciplined on the ice
yeah,
and
exactly.
takes some minors. But I completely agree with you where it's just like, you're putting Tuck versus he's just basically Brandon Hagel, but like light
Yeah,
type of thing.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like Brandon Hagel's actually good. I'm not saying Tuck's not a good hockey player,
Yeah,
but Hagel, we've seen him hit over point per game for this season, be a shorthanded monster as well, shoots a lot, never gets on power play one, but he's still valuable. Whereas Tuck, I feel like is like maybe 75% of Brandon Hagel. It's just
yeah.
kind of like the worst Brandon Hagel or the older, uglier kind of version type of thing. not
You
not
cannot say
what do you mean? I'm not talking about his looks. I'm talking about like, hypothetically.
Yeah, okay.
Um
No,
but
I fully agree other than the looks part.
okay. Either way, I feel like people understand where we're coming from with Tuck, and I'm not saying that he's not going to be valuable for your fantasy team, but I'm just saying that you could probably trade him for somebody that's going to be more valuable longer term.
Yeah, honestly, like a lot of these hot topics are going to graduate into buy lows in the next or sell
Yeah.
highs in the next week. But yeah, no, that's a good one. And then lastly, this is a really hot topic, especially as Habs fans. We've got
Mhm.
Jacob Fowler of the Montreal Canadiens. We mentioned in the news episode he got called up, and also
Mhm.
that Montembeault got sent down for a conditioning stint. Obviously, Montembeault's not going to stay in the AHL. And honestly, I'd be pretty surprised if Fowler stays up in the NHL for the rest of the season. But if he can be good while the other guys are floundering, they're going to keep him up. They want to win.
Yep.
So that's the big but. And he's getting starts. He's starting again
Yep.
tonight. That's going to be his third start in 4 games
Yep.
for the Habs. So as it stands right now, he's the starter. Look, do I think it's going to last? I'd say it's completely performance dependent, and there's just no real way to predict that, especially with like a guy like this who's never played in the NHL before. But if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I just do fantasy. But
Yeah.
if I were a betting man, then I don't think he's gonna finish the season in the NHL.
I mean, I really want him to, but
Yeah,
realistically, I don't think Montembeault's staying in the AHL the whole year, so he's realistically going to be back. And then does he keep the spot over Dobesh? Like, I don't think that's impossible, but I feel like if you're keeping Fowler on the roster, it's not to be the backup.
it's because
So
he's the goalie of the future for the Habs, so they
yeah.
want him to be getting playing time. So unless he's playing in the NHL, they'd rather just have him be the starter in the AHL.
But now the question is for, people are seeing Fowler on the waivers in their fantasy leagues. Like the question is, who are you dropping to pick up Fowler and taking the chance on this
That's a
opportunity?
great question. First of all, I would drop either Montembeault or Dovish for him.
Yep.
Like at this point, no one's gonna grab the other guys. So you
No.
ride like if you really want to have the Habs goalie right now, you take whoever's the guy getting the starts,
Yep.
and then you can drop him for one of the other guys that they start getting the
Yep.
starts. So I would definitely do that. In terms of some starters who I would drop for Fowler, who would you start us off?
I mean, my mind goes straight to my team. So like Jet Greaves.
Okay, I was thinking that too. I think the upside on Fowler is enough that like it's worth it to drop a guy like Greaves, even though I like Greaves.
Mhm.
It's just I don't like what Columbus has been doing.
Yeah.
So
My team is like I don't have any studs. Like I have Greaves, I have Askarov, I have Stuart Skinner, who's now a Pittsburgh Penguin. So it just
yeah,
kind of feels like 3 guys that are kind of the same, where it's just like they're they're good, solid goalies that have upside, but on teams that are not as good as them. It feels
yeah.
like.
I guess the way I see it with Greaves is like most likely he's not your best goalie. Most likely he's your
Yeah.
worst goalie, in which case it's worth dropping him to take a shot at Fowler. Or he's your best goalie, in which case it's definitely worth it to take a shot at Fowler because your
Yeah.
goalie situation can't really get worse.
Yeah.
So I think so I like taking the shot at Fowler. Who else in that
What about
range?
Vladar? What about Skinner? Like,
Okay, I wouldn't drop Skinner for Fowler. I wouldn't drop Vladar either. I honestly he's been kind of low key really good.
I see
So
Vladar and Greaves the same, except Greaves' team collapses at the end of the third period.
I mean that's a big accept.
It is, but
That's
I'm more thinking like, the underlying metrics are all there, that like he's playing better than what the team results are. So I feel like at some point the team results catch up to his performances. That's
Yeah.
why I'm hesitant to drop in my own
Honestly,
league.
like
But
if we're looking at like our own teams, this might be crazy, but I think I'm more likely to drop Decord than I am to drop Vladar.
really, just because the sustainability of the results, like the
No, I
consistency.
mean, right now it looks like the court is like splitting starts with Grubauer. He's been awful. Seattle
Ooh,
is awful.
yeah,
So like it's just not looking good. Look, I do think that better days are ahead. I'm not going to
yeah,
drop
yeah,
him, and I wouldn't drop him for Fowler. But between the two, I think I'm more likely to drop him. I just think Vladar's like kind of been like super underrated. Like I got him as a throw into a trade.
yeah.
I was like, I don't
If you,
really care about
yeah,
this
yeah.
guy, but then he's just been solid.
I
But
think this.
what are some other names?
I was just gonna say, like the sentiment is more like if you're a team that does not need goalie, I'm not trying to pick up Fowler. But if you're a team that's been in goalie hell, then I'm probably more interested. And even if like the guys on your roster are potentially better, is it worth not taking the upside of Fowler? Probably not. Like the guys that we just listed, like you said, like Greaves is my best guy. So do I want to lose like the consistency of the situation to a Fowler that could end up being sent down, and then I don't have either of them, and I'm in a worse situation. Whereas if Greaves, you already have like let's say Blackwood and Wallstead because you picked them up off waivers, and then do I want Fowler in that situation? Like I don't need a Fowler, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's kind
yeah.
of how I'm viewing it.
Yeah, I like it. It's a very much like high upside, but most likely gonna end up
What
being
about
a
John
drop type of
Gibson?
pick.
Last name I'll
I
mention.
was gonna say Gibson.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Um,
We're always
I
on the
feel
same
like
wavelength, you and
I
me.
know it's actually crazy.
Thank God Jakey's not here.
Yeah.
We'd be in Timbuktu on the wavelength.
Yeah, he'd probably be like Cam Talbot, and we'd be like,
Yeah.
who? No, honestly, right now, look, I'm not a Gibson lover or anything like that, but with what he's been doing, I think you got to hold Gibson.
Yeah.
He's the starter, and Detroit's a decent team, so so no, I wouldn't drop Gibson for Fowler.
All right, let's get into the mailbag questions this
Let's
week.
do
Start
it.
us off, Josh.
Okay. Mr. Slicktastic on Reddit asked, what is your Team Russia starting 5+ goalie, assuming they were allowed at the Olympics? So I looked
Mm,
through it, and some of these are obvious and some are less obvious. So I'll go with the
yeah,
obvious ones. So at winger, you've got Kucherov and Kaprizov. There's a lot of good Russian wingers. There's the best goal scorer of all time, but in this day and age, you're not picking anyone over those two.
yeah.
And then at goalie, it's got to be Vasilevsky. I mean, you can make an argument
Stud.
for Igor, but I feel like it's got to be Vasilevsky with all his
The
cups and all
Monstars
that.
are invading. I want Vasilevsky being my goalie.
Exactly. Okay, then defenseman. I actually was pretty surprised at how kind of like lean Russia is at defense
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like offensive defenseman at least. So my picks were Sergachev was the clear one, and then I'd actually put Nikishin as my next one. I don't know if you're pulling up a list of Russian defensemen, but it's pretty
I'm
slim
not.
pickings.
Yeah, I can
Um,
imagine. There's nobody that comes to mind right off the bat. So
yeah, and then at center, look, obviously I'd rather just toss in like Ovechkin and you run three wingers, but
yeah,
like you need a C, it's got to be Evgeny Malkin. Especially like, look, he's shown this year that he's still got some juice in him, and it's Olympics for this year. It's not 4 years from now. So
yeah.
so yeah, that's who I would put as my five.
Even though we hate him for fantasy, like does not mean that he wouldn't be good
Exactly.
for Team Russia.
Exactly. Okay, Nicholas Cronwall on Reddit asked. I don't think it's the actual Nicholas Cronwall, but
You
he
never
asked.
know.
You never know. That would be really cool. What should I do with Demidov and Michkov in a Cats league that has goals, assists, power play points, pims, shots, hits, blocks? It's a keeper league, but neither would be my keepers. He has like some all-star keepers, and he only gets to
Yeah.
keep three.
Mhm.
I've tried trading them, but nobody's interested. Can I drop for someone like Eklund or Voronkov?
Feels bad, but yes. Michkov just got dropped in one of my leagues, and I'm not. I've never been interested in Michkov. Demidov, I have more of a soft spot for, obviously, because we're Habs fans, and also I just think he's a better player.
Yeah.
But I just don't think this is the year for either of them to pop off. I think Michkov has better chances of popping off this year than Demidov does. But I'd rather have Voronkov and Eklund than both of them. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but
That's tough. I mean, those guys both happen to be on your team, so it's
I know. But also,
it's
it's just
hard
like
to
look at
get
the
the bias.
situation. It's just line one, power play one guys that you know are going to be playing close to 20 minutes a night.
I'll give you
And
Michkov because he's not power. He's like Philly's a mess, you
yeah,
know. Like, and even though I agree, like he's a year older than Demidov in the NHL, so like theoretically he should pop
he's
off
playing 13
more.
minutes a night.
That's it. I hate his deployment. So yes, I agree with the Michkov drop. Demidov's power play one, and I just think his upside is so much higher than these other two guys that I wouldn't drop him for those guys. But Demidov got bumped up, like we've seen him go back and forth, right? But I think the Habs like have realized or will realize that their team is best when he's on power play one. So for that reason, I'm holding Demidov versus guys like this. Look, he's definitely droppable for in some, however, depending on how shallow your league is. But with these specific names, yes, I dropped Michkov for them, but not Demidov.
I would drop Demidov for either of these guys too. So it just sucks that you're in a situation where you feel like you should be able to get value for these guys because they're young, they're the next all stars
Yeah,
of the league. It feels like, and yet nobody wants them on their fantasy team. So at a certain point, you just got to do what's best for your team. And if you try to trade
that's
them
it.
everywhere and nobody wants them, even in the lowest of stakes of trades, like the fact that Eklund and Voronkov are available just tells me that there's probably other guys that are also worth streaming as well. So
Absolutely. Okay, this question was alluded to on our news episode, but Easy Peasy on Discord asked, does the trade definitively bring Quinn Hughes up to Makar territory for undisputed defensemen in their own tier in next year's draft? So let's preface by saying that Quinn Hughes was already the undisputed number 2 defenseman in the league. So
yep.
I guess let's treat this question as, does this bring Quinn Hughes, like, because he was undisputed number 2, but there was no question that Makar was number 1. Does this trade make Quinn Hughes a discussion with Makar?
To me, no. I still think it's Makar by far, and you've seen Makar do it at this high of a level so often already that I don't think anybody's close to Makar. Like I think the gap between Makar and the next best defenseman, which is Quinn Hughes, is still way larger than the gap from like McKinnon to McDavid. It feels
Yeah,
like
I
McKinnon to McDavid is close enough that you're like, okay, like these are two studs. But it used to be McDavid and then friends, Now it's just
yeah,
like it's McDavid, McKinnon, Kucherov. Like all these guys can put up the points and the shots. Whereas Makar, I don't think anybody's consistently like I would. Monstars are invading. I'm choosing one defenseman. It's Makar, and I know I'm happy. You know what I mean?
yeah. There's a lot of monsters invading in this
Yeah. Why do they
episode,
keep
but
invading? That's kind of especially during this
yeah,
hot topics and mailbag week 11 episode. What?
I know it's crazy. Um, Look, I mean, I tend to agree with what Kevin said. The one thing I'll say is that we don't have to make that decision just yet. Let's see how he plays on Minnesota before we decide. So I think it's possible. Like I said, he's already number 2, and he's going. What makes McCarr so special, in addition to just being like the best defenseman, is he also does get to play with McKinnon, right? Like that's not a
Yeah.
nothing. So now Quinn Hughes, instead of playing with Jake DeBrusk and Brock Besser and the husk of Elias Pettersson. He gets to play with Kirill Kaprizov. He gets to play with Matt Boldy. Like
Matt
it's got,
Zuccarello.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance that this could boost him to that level. But I think we just have to wait and see. It's too early to tell.
But Makar is also like pretty decent at blocks, whereas I know Quinn Hughes is getting 0 blocks, 0 hits.
That's
So
fair. And McCarr's an elite shooter.
yeah.
Hughes was better than I expected, but he's still not that level. So that's definitely, assuming he doesn't randomly elevate that part of his game, then yes, McCarr is still a step up.
But this definitely does better things for Quinn Hughes' value. So listen, we're not we're not
Absolutely.
we're not trying to, push that down. It's more just like Makar is just so good.
Yeah. Okay. Birdo's Pink Sucker on Discord asked.
I can't
I,
believe you chose this question now.
I knew I would have to read this name, and it's hilarious. But yeah, he asked, if you had a bad season due to unlucky weekly matchups, do you trust the process and run back the same strategy next year, or try to change things up? So this is like your team's doing well, but this is like the classic. My team has the most fantasy points of any team in the league this year,
Yeah.
but it also has the most fantasy points against of any
Yeah.
team this year, and with the matchups. So do you run that back? Do you change things up? I'm running it back. That's
Yeah.
like if your team's like the way I feel about things is if every time, like if I have the option of both someone on my team and someone I'm playing get a goal, or neither does, I'm always taking the both get a goal, because
Mhm.
even though it's net the same for my matchup that week, it just means I have a better team. So I kind of view it the same way as, look, if you're doing everything right and everything's against you, you keep doing everything right. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, it's more first of all, like if you like Josh gave the perfect example. Like we talk about fantasy football sometimes or fantasy hockey. It's just like, yeah, your team scores so many points, but you also end up playing against like you're the second highest scorer, you play against the first highest scorer, and you just get bad luck sometimes. And I mean, I've had years like that where I mean last year for fantasy football really wrecked me. I was like the highest scoring team and I didn't make the playoffs. It was honestly heartbreaking. And that happens sometimes. You are a victim to the schedule and there's nothing you can do about it. And it really sucks. I'm trying to step away from that situation a little bit and just be like, okay, if something went wrong or I lost and I was like I trusted the process, I'm gonna stand back and reevaluate. Like, okay, what was my process? Like, what was my strategy this year? Like, usually going into a year, if you have a process, you wanna put it up for debate and see like, did I choose the right one? Like, what did my competitors do? And a lot of that could be like, where you draft certain players. Like, are you going goalie heavy? Are you punting goalie? Are you going more center heavy if you're in a categories league that has face offs? Like, there's so many components that can play into this. So, but if you just had bad luck, like you said in the question, I'm running it back. Like, I'm not trying to get cute with it. You have to take every individual situation for its own, and sometimes there's no correlation. Like your team wasn't bad; it was just every other team was better than yours, hypothetically.
Yeah.
On any
Okay.
given week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's try and rapid fire a few of these if
yeah,
we
yeah,
can. Francis on Discord asked, "What do you do when your lineup is optimized? Barring injuries, how do you avoid tampering with perfection?" So I remember he in his message he was saying that he's just like jonesing to make some moves
yeah.
because he's bored with how good his team is. And so I'll say first of all, don't mess with perfection. But when you're in this situation, this is the prime time to do some 2-for-1s and some
Yep.
consolidating. Free up that streamer spot so you can get back into picking up all these exciting names. It does kind of suck when your whole team is just guys who are like
Yep.
undroppable. So yeah, that's the first thing that jumped out to me is just consolidate.
It's the first and the only thing that you have to do. Your team is so good, you don't have any room to make any moves. That means, first of all, you're subject to bad schedules on a weekly basis, which even if your team is perfect, you might still end up losing just because of sheer volume. Like last week, I have Trocheck, Panarin, and Will Cooley on my team, and Rangers had a 2-game week, so I ended up getting crushed in my matchup because my opponent just had so much volume on me. This week the Rangers have 5-game week, so I have the advantage going into my next matchup. So, but the main question is, what do you do when your team is stacked? You trade, and that's what I'm gonna recommend you do here. Do
Yeah.
2-for-1s. Always get the best player available in a trade, and if you keep doing that, your team's gonna get even better. So
Yeah. Okay, Jordari on Discord asked, "Everyone loves the newest shiny thing in fantasy hockey. What's y'all's take on drafting for potential versus drafting for the sure thing? What do you think would win over the course of the year? A team that's in every round hit on a safe floor guy, or a team who hit on 50% of their high potential swings? What percentage of swings would it take to outplay the floor guy's draft?" So this is a great question. This is kind of how
mhm.
you look at the draft, and I think it's as unsatisfying of an answer as it is. I think it's a kind of a mix of both. The
Yeah,
way I
you have
see it
to.
is early on in the draft, I much prefer taking the sure thing.
Hmm.
And then later on in the draft is where I go for those drafting for potential, like shots at the dartboard, because
Yeah.
the cost of missing is so much lower later on in the draft. And you get such a bigger advantage. Like hitting on an all star in round one versus taking a sure thing all star in round one is the same thing, right?
Hmm.
When you get to round 13, if you hit that all star, that's a big difference. So that's kind
Yeah.
of how I look at it.
For those that are not watching on YouTube, I was nodding along to everything Josh was saying because I completely agree with it. It's just you'll never see me draft like the rookie that's poised for a step up at his due draft cost, like the Connor Bedard's that he's been disappointing going into this year. He was drafted in like the third round, where that was way too rich for me. Like I'm happy to miss out on that and draft like Tage Thompson in the third round, than draft Connor Bedard and not have him get anywhere close to what we're expecting, and then feel like I have a third round bust.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like this year if you would have made the Bedard draft pick, you would have been thrilled because he was playing like a first round value, right? But I'm happy to miss out on that and get the sure thing that early, because the consequences of missing on a pick that early are way more severe than missing on a pick later. When I'm later in the drafts, I know that like after round 10, there's a bunch of guys that are just gonna end up on waivers anyways. It also depends how deep your league is. Like the deeper your league is, like our draft is like 20 rounds. I know that I need to make sure I have some studs as the foundation for my roster. I don't have the luxury of taking big swings early on because the impact is so much more consequential. If I'm in a team that's only starting 10 guys, then maybe I'm more likely to take swings earlier on because I know that the replacement value is already going to be really high. So you have to take that into account when you're making decisions like this. But like Josh said, like we're not gonna get into the hypotheticals of like how much percent do they have to hit for me to want to take them type of thing. But it's just like earlier on, I'm way more risk averse than later on,
Yeah.
and I think that's how it should be.
Yeah. Okay, Joshua Furon on Discord asked, "Which franchises are the most directionless right now? Vancouver seems to have picked a direction. Looks like Nashville and Calgary will be, but lots of teams are in win now mode and several are building for the future. But which ones are the least clear in your opinions? And if you were the GM of these teams, what direction would you take?" So I think let's maybe each give like one.
Yep.
And I mean, the obvious answer is obviously Buffalo always.
Yeah.
They just nothing they do makes any sense versus like trying to compete, tanking. They finally made a move, which was hiring a new GM, and so we'll see what happens with that. I think if I'm them, like you don't need a tank. They have a lot of good pieces. They just need to trade some of their defensemen for forwards. I think, specifically Byram. I wouldn't re-sign Tuck. I would try and trade him for value, and that's kind of how I would look at it.
Yep. I mean, Buffalo's a great answer. It feels like they're always not rebuilding but never competing. So you're in the middle ground of hell that nobody ever wants to be. I think for me, the biggest answer is probably Nashville. Because I
Yeah.
just feel like Nashville, it was 2 free agencies ago that they signed like 4 guys off and not waivers, on free agency
Yeah.
and thought they were like completely rebuilt their team and ready to compete, and they were like one of the worst teams in the league. Last year was the same. This year they're also bad. It just kind of feels like, and they still have these guys on their roster, right? So it's just like, get them off your roster and start the rebuild. I feel like this is the year that they're probably going to go in that direction, but as of right now, like they still have Stamkos, they still have O'Reilly. It's
Marcia
just
So.
not Marcia.
Yeah.
So like Yossi
Yeah.
is always hurt.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about Yossi this year. It's crazy. Like for fantasy, like nobody has mentioned his name anywhere.
It's true. He's like a ghost.
He's literally a ghost. Like, is he still even alive? That's kind of what
Yeah.
it feels like. But yeah,
Yeah,
Nashville's my answer here.
fully agree. Okay, Frank on Discord asked, "What's the best punishment you guys have ever seen for finishing last in fantasy hockey?" I mean, there's obviously the classic one, right? Like the Waffle House challenge. I
Yeah,
don't know if this is just
I've
like
always
widely
wanted
known.
to do that.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
for the
yeah.
viewers who don't know what that is, it's the last place person has to go to Waffle House and hang out there for 24 hours. But for every waffle they eat, it cuts off an
Or
hour.
pancake.
Or pancake or whatever, but for every unit of food served that they eat, it cuts off an hour of the time they have to spend there. And what's funny is like I always thought that was a really dope like like punishment, but what I've learned since moving to the US is Waffle House is known as like the most ghetto dangerous like restaurant. So,
Maybe like
I'd
IHOP or something.
like Waffle House literally like has some of them have like security guards.
Are you serious?
Like, yes, I'm 100% serious. So it puts a whole new spin on that punishment. It's like I would be kind of stressed out. So, like I'm sure there's some that are nicer than others, but some of those Waffle Houses I would not want to hang out in for 24 hours.
If you're watching on YouTube, like or wherever, I want you guys to leave a comment and let me know if your league has a punishment for
I've
your
been wanting to
fantasy
implement
league.
it in our
I
league
would
for
love
years.
to have a punishment. It just feels like all the punishments kind of teeter on having some sort of like financial impact, and I feel like you can't impose like a financial impact for a league that people are already dishing money out to play, and then they end up
No, it should
finishing
be
last
something
and
funny.
it should be something funny, but also you need to play with people that are going to commit to the bid and not just going to bail if they finish last place, right?
Yeah,
So
like
it's really
imagine
hard.
like someone doing beer bets and then not drinking all the beers.
Who and imagine starting a podcast with a person like that. It's crazy,
honestly. And then that person runs off to pursue a karaoke career in Korea. That would be nuts.
It's like you can never get enough. But
yeah,
I wish we had a punishment for our league of record. I think that would be really cool.
Next year, we'll implement one next year.
We have to do give us some ideas in the comments or wherever you're listening to this. Like, let us know what you guys would love to see, and maybe we'll find a way to record that or something. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Well, none of us are gonna finish last, but
no, but for those other people,
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Jordari on Discord asked, at this point in the season, who are you guys picking to win the cup? I want to see houses on Zillow level of certainty.
Well, my house is always on Zillow. But I'm putting it on the Colorado Avalanche. Right now I feel like
I was gonna pick.
I mean, I feel like it's them or Dallas right now. It feels like whenever they match up, whatever round it ends up being, the team who wins that matchup is going to win the Stanley Cup. Right now we're recording this, in the middle of December. If things change, obviously we'll see. But
it's the Habs for sure.
Yeah.
Ça sent la coupe.
Watch it be a team from the East out of nowhere.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, it would be crazy. But it's gotta be one of those teams.
OJ82 on Discord asked, how are you guys able to answer would you rathers so confidently off the dome? I've been playing fantasy hockey for years and wouldn't be able to answer without going through and comparing their stats, deployment, team stats, etc. Do you have a process or just photographic memories of everyone's stats? So
photographic memories of everybody's stats.
Fantastic question. I think being chronically online is is a big one.
Chronically on the fantasy apps.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I mean Kevin and I and Jake are all super, super dialed in. And first of all, in terms of, let's say, like team stats deployment, like that I know off the top of my head. Like you name a player, I could tell you exactly. Like like for the most part what their deployment is, unless it's like changed in the last few days. And Kevin too, like, and all of
Mm,
us, like, so we're very dialed into the deployment. That's a huge part of
yeah.
justifying these answers. And in terms of the stats, like, also, like, I'm always, first of all, our own teams, I'm sure we know back to
Yeah.
front, because you're always looking at your own team. And then even other teams, because we're always looking at these buy low and sell highs and
hmm
everything. And personally, I like every single day when I wake up, I look at how every single team did the night before. Maybe I
Yeah.
mean, I'm crazy, like, I'm
I
just
do the same
obsessed.
thing. I do the same
So I
thing.
like looking at like every single, and then I'll go on my watch list and look at how every player
hmm
on my watch list did the night before. So yeah. So I mean, it's just constantly absorbing the information, and some of it sticks in this this smooth brain of mine.
Yeah. No, I mean, same answer for me, honestly. I feel like the deployment is, we're always trying to keep track of who's getting bumped up in deployment because that's a new opportunity for waivers or, for extra value. So we're kind of pretty much dialed in, I feel like, in terms of like all the power plays, all the line combinations, like all of that is, like Josh said, I feel like I can answer the questions on at a moment's notice. I'm snapping my fingers if you guys are watching on
Yeah.
YouTube. Um, but also like I'm always looking at my own team. I'm always looking at everybody else's teams. Like Josh said, I wake up, I look at like, okay, who were the star performers from the night before? Who are guys in the waivers that popped off that I have to keep an eye on? So I just feel like all of that culminates into, having a good grasp on like the current situation of the NHL. And also just, we've been playing fantasy for years and years and years. I would, and with the same kind of like, you know, metrics and organization that we have now in terms of like keeping track of everything, that you get certain mental pictures of players in a certain way. Like if I'm talking about like Jesper Bratt, I know Jesper Bratt is like a 1.1 points per game player with a 0.35 to 0.4 power play points, and he'll get you like 2.2 shots and 1.1 hits type of thing. You know what I mean? So like that's kind of
You
how
just
I
like the
visualize the
exact same
players.
numbers that went in my
Yeah.
head. Like I like
and,
to like the second decimal
yeah.
point.
And it's like that's kind of like how I visualize that player, and then you'll tell me a different player, and I'll stack them against each other and see
Yeah.
like, okay, compare the relevant categories. Like I'm not taking into account blocks for a Brat or
Yeah.
face-off wins because it doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
our league of record has 10 forward categories that like anything a player is actually doing on the ice are getting counted in our league of record. So I feel like it paints a proper picture of like how good a player is in terms of like how well their game is rounded out. And
Yeah.
and
I do
yeah,
the
just
exact
you
same
do that
thing.
for everybody, and then you end up just always having kind of like a player card in your mind of like, okay, this
Yeah.
is this guy, this is what I expect, this is what he's always done, this is what I think he could do. Like it's just yeah,
Absolutely.
feels a lot of feels like a lot of stress, but it's a lot of fun.
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah.
And stress, but fun.
hmm
Okay, last question. Joshua Fearon on Discord asked, do you keep track of how well your past decision-making process has been? Like sit starts, ad drops, draft picks, etc. First of all, for draft picks, I'm always going back over my draft, like
Yeah.
throughout, more towards the beginning of the season, but also just throughout. And I'll be like, wow, I can't believe, like, if someone on my team is popping off, I'll be like, I can't believe I got him at this point in the draft. Or like, oh, I can't believe I picked up this guy so early in the draft and he sucks.
Yeah.
Or even more, like, I see someone else's team is popping off, and I'm like, what round did that guy get drafted? Who did I pick
Yeah.
before him? And then I start kicking myself, being like, I can't believe I made that
hmm
decision, So draft picks 100%. Ad drops, yeah. I mean, like, if I'm debating between two guys and I choose the wrong one, then I'll beat myself up about it for a
hmm
bit. If it was just like a short term thing, I won't be too upset. But if it was like I was debating picking up Darren Radish earlier this year and I
Yeah.
didn't, and then he popped off, so I'm going to be beating myself up about that all season. And then sit starts, especially for goalies, I always bench the wrong one and he gets a shutout. So yes, I always
Yeah.
beat myself up, but also congratulate myself on past decisions.
We're always making so many decisions that you're never going to be right 100% of the time, and you have to be okay with that. And if you're right 80% of the time, that's still amazing. But it's mostly about like having a solid process that you can rely on to give you results, positive results more often than not. I think I always usually have a pretty solid draft. I never walk away from my drafts. I get the most stress in my life is like leading up to our league of record draft, and then I always feel like I'm very happy when I leave my draft.
Must be
But
nice.
yeah, yeah. But then I always end up losing to Josh. So then something happens throughout the season that makes it so that I always lose to him in the final or the semifinals. I will say though, for start sits, I feel like there's nobody in the world better than me at starting or sitting a goalie. I feel like I always pick the right goalies when it comes to having to make a decision. Knowing when to sit a goalie as well. Like our league of record has 5 goalie categories. It's wins, goals against average, save percentage, saves, and shutouts. So you're always kind of I do the math on like, okay, if I'm down by 17.17 save percentage. What result does my
Oh
goalie have to do
yeah,
to
I
like
pull out the
flop
calculator as
that? So I'm pulling
well.
out the calculator, doing the math. I'm like,
100%.
okay, he's got to go like 32 out of 33 to
Yeah,
this is unlikely. So I'll probably just either bench or whatever. You know what I mean? So always trying to make decisions like that. But for goalies,
yeah.
I feel like I'm very reliable. For players, I feel like I'm not as reliable. When you
No,
have
but we're always great.
a lot of good players, it's hard to make the
Yeah,
best choice all the time.
absolutely. But like Kevin says, you trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
But let's wrap this one up.
Yes, if you guys made it this far, really appreciate it. This is the Week 11 Hot Topics and Mailbag episode in the books. If you're not already following us on all the social medias, TikTok, Instagram, X, MySpace, not MySpace, Zillow, you can go see my house,
Pinterest.
Pinterest, all that. Just drop us a follow. No, but sincerely, guys, really appreciate everybody's support. I feel like things recently have been really cool. We're going to have some cool collabs in the near future. So that's something that you guys can look out for. Podcast is growing. People are noticing, which is always fun. Drop us a follow on Spotify, Apple, and join the Discord community. Guys, if you're not in the Discord yet, and you don't know what it is, take a moment of your time, like go look into it. It's just app you download, you make an account, you join the banker management community, and honestly, it's the best decision you can make for your fantasy season. I think, in my
Absolutely.
humble opinion. So
Absolutely.
yeah, join there, subscribe on YouTube, leave a like, and we'll see you on the next one. Take it away, Renee.
Bow 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 bow. Banger Management Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Woo!
Woo! Woo for Jakey.
Yeah.
Yeah.